And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. And the weather is still good, so a weekend at Morongo with a little gambling and a little golf sounds like a great idea. Mr. Randy Wang's at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, California Attorney General Rob Bonta and 48 other attorney generals are suing Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, for making products that are addictive to kids. And in a press conference explaining the lawsuit, Rob Bonta came armed with his favorite weapon, a bucket full of cliches.
The breadth and commitment of our coalition underscores what a tremendous national concern we have before us today. This is a national issue requiring and deserving of a national response, and that's what you have on full display today. AGs from across the nation rising up to address this issue.
He is the absolute worst.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
Okay. Today is a perfect day, I think, for us to set everything aside for a second and have the talk. And when I say the talk, I don't mean the birds and the bees. You can have that talk with your parents. The talk that we need to have today is that currently in the state of California, and specifically in the county of Los Angeles and a couple others, you are officially on your own. And when I say that, I mean you will not get any kind of protection that you anticipate getting from the powers that be if someone were to rob you or attack you. It doesn't exist. When I say you are on your own, I mean you are on your own. We have a crisis going on right now in the state regarding crime. Your governor is in China kissing up to the communists. Your attorney general is suing Facebook. Your mayor was on an ass-kissing tour of Washington, D.C., and your district attorney is actively trying to destroy public safety, assuming you're not watching. So here's my advice to you. Until George Gascon gets replaced, do not ride the metro. Stay off the trains, stay off the buses, stay off the subways. If you're on one of those trains or buses or subways and someone decides they want to rape you, they want to stab you, they want to rob you, there is no place for you to go, and you may or may not have cell reception, not that anyone will show up if you call. If you plan on walking somewhere from your house to a business, the gym, whatever the case may be, do not go by yourself. Go with someone else. If you go someplace, be a car, get in your car, in your garage, drive to where you have to go, and do whatever you have to do at whatever store you're at, get back in your car and go back. Because if you're by yourself, you are a sitting duck. And with the rise in anti-Semitism that's working its way around the globe right now, do not believe what the president's spokeswoman is saying. There is a lot of anti-Semitism out there right now. If you're Jewish, be particularly careful, especially if you wear the yarmulke or the Star of David, some identifying marker, because you're being targeted right now. Don't believe them. You are being targeted right now. And if something bad were to happen, you would be the bad guy. You would be the bad guy because you would be the one that would result or be responsible for some criminal going to prison in theory or having something on their record. The news over the last 24 hours is almost beyond comprehension. Some time ago, we did a story about a little black girl in Harbor City who went to school and then after school went to McDonald's with her friends for a snack. You remember this one, Randy?
This was on September 14th. This 13-year-old walked inside the McDonald's and was immediately jumped by an insane woman who started beating the crap out of this 13-year-old girl. The other kids that were in there didn't help the girl. They just filmed it on their phones. The crazy woman kept beating up the 13-year-old girl until her McNuggets were ready, and then her boyfriend said, "It's time to go, girl."
The girl had bruises all over her body and psychological trauma. And to add insult to injury, because none of her friends helped her, they just recorded the beating taking place. She got made fun of at school over it because the kids all shared the video. Well, the LAPD, good on them, caught the individual who allegedly did this. As it turns out, listen to this, talk about someone who did everything correct in life. The woman who is alleged to have beat this child is a 31-year-old single mother of 7 kids. Let that sink in for a second. A 31-year-old single mother of 7 kids. And she's at a McDonald's beating up a child for no reason. LAPD turns it over to the district attorney, recommends felony prosecution.
Felony child abuse for almost killing a child by beating her up.
And what does George Gascon do? He downgrades it to a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor offense for attacking a child and almost killing her for no reason.
Are we trying to allege that the violent beating of a 13-year-old girl is a nonviolent crime?
And, you know, if you listen to Mr. Wobbly Knees Allies, this is just the process taking place. This is accountability.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
And he's going to try to blame LAPD, but don't believe it. Because if LAPD recommended a misdemeanor, it wouldn't have gone to the DA's office. It would have gone to the city attorney's office, because that's who charges misdemeanors unless it gets downgraded from a felony to a misdemeanor. Then it stays in Gascon's office. This is Gascon's doing. And Randy, because the crime was so horrendous, just to refresh people's memory, let's go back and revisit those details as to what happened that day in the McDonald's.
This was a month ago, and as you listen to it, remember, the woman who was arrested for beating up this 13-year-old girl is getting a slap on the wrist because of,
Quite frankly,
that guy.
It started as an innocent walk home from school, and then suddenly, without explanation, it turned violent. I have to warn you, we are going to show you that video, and it's very tough to watch. But the family hopes that you will see it, and perhaps you'll be able to help them locate the woman who they say attacked their young daughter.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's a trauma so fresh. 13-year-old Cassidy Jones has no words, but her tears say it all. According to Cassidy and her mom, Cassidy was with a couple of classmates when she stopped off at a McDonald's in Harbor City on her walk home from school September 6th. But before she could get home safely, an unidentified woman cornered her in the fast food restaurant and began attacking her. Cassidy says the attack was unprovoked. She says the woman hurled these words at her.
What the F are y'all looking at? I fight kids, I fight you, this, and that.
Misdemeanor.
Not felony, misdemeanor.
And you know, I'm shocked because, I didn't do anything. I don't know you. You're coming at me very aggressive for no reason.
Fox 11 exclusively obtained several videos that seem to corroborate Cassidy's version of what happened. The woman, who was much larger than the girl, appears to lunge at Cassidy and drag her to the floor while punching her and pulling her by the hair.
Misdemeanor.
Adult to a child.
Cassidy fights back with her hands and her legs. A crowd watches, yells, but does not help the girl. Cassidy says eventually a man who was with the female who punched her pulled the woman away. The woman got her meal and left.
I couldn't yell. I was focused on protecting myself because I knew the moment I put my hands down was the moment I was probably going to get beat to death.
So when she caught me...
Misdemeanor.
George Gascon.
So when she caught me, she was screaming and hollering, and I'm standing there, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
Cassidy's mom called the police and rushed her daughter to the hospital. You can see in these pictures taken right after the attack, her face was bruised and very swollen. 1 week later, the bruising is lessened. But Cassidy's heart is hurting that a complete stranger could do this to her, and her mom feels the same.
I just couldn't believe that another human being would do this. You know, you just do not beat on. This is a 13-year-old.
We watched.
You think a mother of 7 would know better.
I hope this woman, the mother of the girl that was beaten, does not let this go. I hope she raises holy hell about this injustice.
We watched the video together where no one rushed in to help a defenseless 13-year-old girl.
Personally, she really needs to go to jail.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like she's going to jail because in George Gascon's Los Angeles County, a misdemeanor means a diversion program.
That's right. And that's accountability, Randy.
It's not just about money. It's about damn accountability.
If I'm that mother, I am personally suing the mother of 7 for bodily injury, and I'm suing George Gascon for putting her daughter in danger.
Oh, like the mother of 7 has anything. How much public assistance do you think that witch is on? So that's what's going on in Harbor City. Thanks, George Gascon. Now let's turn to what happened in Long Beach, which is another completely bonkers story.
In the city of Long Beach, in downtown Long Beach, in broad daylight on Friday, a woman who was walking from her office to lunch was attacked by a man with his pants down and his member out and was assaulted. She was saved by a guy who was seeing what happened and happened to have pepper spray on him. But this is yet another situation where downtown Long Beach is being devastated by all of the homeless nut jobs that like to hang out at the Blue Line.
And because they won't be prosecuted for their crimes, and we're told that we should have nothing but sympathy for them, I guess women being sexually assaulted in broad daylight is just collateral damage.
Let's hear more from Fox 11.
A suspect has been arrested after a sexual assault in Long Beach is captured on camera.
Yeah, the attack actually happened in broad daylight. Gigi's live this morning in Long Beach with this really disturbing video. Hi, Gigi.
That's right, and the victim is speaking out, hoping that it will help other women, reminding them to always be alert, even during daylight hours. Take a look at the surveillance video. The attack happened on Friday, October 20th. It was just after 2:15 in the afternoon when Rebecca Peterson was walking not far from where she works here on Linden and Broadway in Long Beach, when suddenly she is attacked by a man who'd been walking behind her. The suspect, a homeless man, walking around with his pants down and his genitals out.
Yikes.
Downtown Long Beach, again, a city the size of Atlanta, middle of the day, no one says a word.
He lifted up my dress all the way and thrusted himself onto me. Oh, I screamed, "What the a few times. When I turned around, I did notice he started picking up his pants. If it wasn't in broad daylight and that man wasn't sitting there, he would have tried to rape me for sure.
I'm sure that man just needed some housing.
Oh, yes. You know, it's because society is not equitable that he was out there naked in broad daylight sexually assaulting women.
After the attack and being confronted by a man who had witnessed it all, the suspect ran off. But thanks to the security camera footage, 30-year-old Miguel Avila was later arrested by the Long Beach Police Department just a few hours later. But those who work in this area say this is just the latest incident in a string of crimes tied to the homeless community. And they blame in part the Metro line. That's because there's an end-of-line policy. And basically at midnight when the train or bus shuts down, it has to be cleaned, so everyone is forced off. And according to a report from Metro, an average of 39 unhoused persons are left in Long Beach every night. And business owners here are hoping that Metro will revise that policy.
They won't, but all the money that's been invested to revitalize downtown Long Beach, it's good to know that it's going down the drain.
And if you live there, you're definitely not safe. Well, all of this is going on. Your district attorney is telling you that crime is actually down. And if you were smart enough, you'd realize that. That he doesn't not prosecute crime. He prosecutes crime. He just looks for equitable results because we don't want people disappearing. You have a governor who tells you that California is not a lawless state. We have laws on the books, and they're enforced. It is the media that overplays it to make you think that you're not safe in the state of California. And we have other elected officials at various levels who say essentially the same thing. It's a war zone out there. If a child is assaulted at a McDonald's unprovoked by a grown woman and it results in misdemeanor charges, and by the way, that doesn't mean that that's what she's going to be convicted of. They can dismiss the charges at some point. She can cut a plea deal, and it almost certainly means she won't be seeing any jail time at all, which means another child is going to be beaten too. And then after that happens, it's rinse and repeat. I would imagine this naked man who allegedly sexually assaulted a woman in broad daylight is going to get a slap on the wrist. And this is just the world that we live in. And what is going to happen, and I will say this, not because I want it to happen, but just because human nature is the way it is. There are certain people who are willing to deal with the system and deal with the process, even though they know ultimately they will not receive justice. And they'll be angry about it, and they'll complain about it to their friends, and maybe even their voting patterns will change. But there are some people who won't put up with it. There are some people who understand that if the system is going to fail you for sure, that vigilantism is the way to go. And at some point, something's going to go terribly wrong. You try to sexually assault a woman who's got a gun on her in downtown Long Beach, guess what? You're not going to like the results. If you sexually assault or attack a child at a restaurant and the parent happens to be there, I know a lot of guys who, if that was their daughter and they were at that McDonald's, they would have beaten that woman severely. And you know what? She would have had it coming. But when you lose track of the ability to enforce the laws and everyone knows they're on their own, that's a path you don't want to go down. This is third world BS. You talk to people who live in Brazil, you talk to people who live in other countries. This is something that's not foreign to them. This is something that they're very familiar with. You go to work, you're a businessman. You have business in Colombia, you have one of these bulletproof cars, you have private security. It's a different world. Is that the road we're going down in California? Not because we can't get control of things. We choose not to. From George Gascon's point of view, this is the system working. That girl getting beaten almost to death and the individual who allegedly did it being charged with a misdemeanor, that's justice. That's a great thing from his point of view. He's happy with the outcome. He chose the outcome. We don't know what's going to happen to the pervert in Long Beach, but I would imagine they'll go down a similar path.
He just needs some services.
That's right. If we had more after-school programs, then that wouldn't have happened.
Maybe we can get him a belt.
Or hit him with one. All right. You saw the same news I did. You heard about what happened in Harbor City. You heard about what happened in Long Beach. Now it's time to open up the phone lines and just let you react to this because words fail me. Words don't fail me that often. Words fail me today. What say you? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. And Randy, if you want to listen to the podcast edition of this program, that is easy to do.
That's right. Just go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, or go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, or the easiest way, you should make sure that you download the KABC app, search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live whenever you're outside of the AM radio signal around the world. Listen live to us noon to 3 wherever you are, and then listen to the podcast anytime that it's not noon to 3. But if you're thinking of listening to the podcast when we're actually broadcasting live from noon to 3, that would be disrespectful.
Why they don't show respect?
And we don't want to be disrespectful.
No. So listen live and then listen to the podcast.
A 13-year-old girl was beaten for no reason at a McDonald's in Harbor City. George Gascon only wants to charge the adult with a misdemeanor. A woman in Long Beach was sexually assaulted in broad daylight in downtown by a naked bum. God knows what Gascon is going to charge the naked bum with. Right now, we're giving you an opportunity to react to all of this insanity at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It is every man for himself out there. Today's news cycle includes George Gascon charging a woman accused of brutally beating a 13-year-old girl for no reason at a McDonald's with a misdemeanor. A naked homeless man in downtown Long Beach allegedly sexually assaulted a woman downtown in broad daylight. God knows what kind of slap on the wrist Gascon is going to give that individual. I'm baffled at what I'm seeing around me. I'm baffled at our willingness to put up with it. And I want your reaction at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Renee in Hacienda Heights. Renee, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hi, John. How are you? I'll make it quick. Last October, I got a pounding. My neighbor was pounding on my door in the middle of the night. I come to the door. He says, "Hey, Renee, the neighbor across the street is getting burglarized and beaten up." Okay, he says to me, "I have my gun," and he's asking or implying that I help him. I turn around and said, "Hold on a second. Let me get my sidearm. We'll go out and see." As I'm going out the door, I tell my wife, "Call the sheriffs. Tell them what we know. Tell them this is all that we know, and that they need to get here and tell them that I have my sidearm with me." I confront the guy that's across the street. I prone him out because I don't recognize him as a neighbor. I can't see my neighbor that needs help. I prone him out. Sheriffs arrive on scene. Okay. They get our stories, and they say, "Well, there's no crime, no foul. There's nobody here that's a victim," so they let us go. Well, what happened is that this guy that I proned out, he happened to be down the street subpoenaing another. He was a processor, and so he was subpoenaing the neighbor down the street, which I did not know. He ends up getting into a fist fight with that guy, okay? And he gets into a bad fist fight. He ends up running from the fight and ends up across the street at my house. My neighbor confuses him with a burglar or someone beating up the neighbor across the street. That's why he came over to ask for me to help. 3 months later, I get a subpoena to court order, and the guy ends up filing a claim against me, and I have a restraining order on me for a whole year. They took my guns away, John. Not only that, and this is how ironic it is, I understand exactly what that young lady's going through when nobody helped her out. But guess what? I'm a retired police officer, and a school police officer at that. Do you want to know how many fights I broke up and how many kids' butts I saved because they were getting pummeled by another student or a stranger? And here I am. I have a restraining order on me until next April. I had to turn in all my guns, and now I'm dreading the fact that this guy's going to end up suing me. That's where I'm at. So you can't help anybody. It's tough. Unless it's your immediate family or a friend and you're willing to take that chance, this is what happens in the state of California. You get screwed on the other end, John.
The good guys are the bad guys, and the bad guys are the good guys. They've turned the script completely upside down.
It's amazing. I'm trying to get an appeal on this, and according to my attorney, it may take until the year 2025 for any appellate court or superior court to hear my case. And there's no guarantee that that's the route it's going to go. And basically the other guy is just bleeding me to death because I really don't have the money to go and hire an attorney, even though I have one now. I'm at a point where he my attorney is asking for more money, and I just don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I can't believe this. You want to know how many guys I proned out in my 32 years as a cop? Dozens, John, dozens. The most I got was a complaint because the guy said, "Oh, the officer proned me out. Now I'm dirty." I brushed him off. I sincerely explained to him the mistake, or maybe I took him into custody because he was the bad guy. But that's what happened. It took 3 years, 2.5 years after my retirement to go out and help somebody or make an attempt to help somebody, and now I'm being sued. Can you believe that?
What a nightmare. Thank you so much for your service, and thank you for your call, sir. Let's go to Dave in Los Angeles. Dave, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hey, guys. After listening to the last guy, that's amazing. I would probably, if I was in the situation and saw that little girl getting beat, I would probably stomp that girl out so hard she wouldn't know it hit her. Or I should say that woman. And, this is being done on purpose. George Gascon, and it's coming from the very top of our government. They want to create as much chaos as they can. It's called the Cloward and Piven strategy. You basically let the streets run rampant, and it gets so bad that people claim they want something done, but they're the ones who created the problem. And it's basically how societies fail. And I think it was John, you said something earlier about the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good. Well, that's a biblical thing. It says before the second coming of Christ, all the things that are considered good will be considered evil, and all the things that are considered evil will be considered good. And that's where we're at in society. And as soon as my daughter's 18, I'm out of California. I got 1 more year, and I'm out of here.
Where are you going to go?
Nevada or Texas. My brother moved to Texas last year, and he said it was the best thing he ever did in his life. People are armed there. People are nice. There's no crime. Because you don't know if you're going to get smoked. If you mess with somebody who's armed. And I don't feel bad for the people of L.A., I live in Orange County in Santa Ana, where it's moderately conservative, but I don't feel bad for the people now. They vote for that stuff. They get what they vote for. I don't feel bad for them. It's their own deal. There's a book that was written 25 years ago. I read it by Michael Savage. It's called Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. You can show them all the facts and figures, and they'll still go out and vote for Democrats because they think Republicans are the bad party, and they still can't get through their brain that their policies are the ones that are causing the problems. I listen to you guys every day. I'm a Lyft driver, and you said a couple weeks ago, John, if they can't get, their brain is broken. They can't see the correlation between their voting policies, their voting patterns, and the crime and the poverty. They just don't get it. It's baffling to me.
Well, it is baffling to me as well. I don't understand why you would vote for policies that make your life miserable if you have to live here. I get it. You cheer for your team. There's Team Red and Team Blue, and all of us have our own tribal alliances. But at a certain point, don't you want to be able to go to the McDonald's without being beaten? Don't you want to be able to walk down the street in a place like Long Beach, which is very expensive to live in, without being sexually assaulted or beaten by a pack of teens? I certainly wouldn't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that, but apparently they do. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Patty in Simi Valley. Patty, you're on KABC. Welcome.
How you doing, guys? Randy, there's no consequences. You can do whatever you like. You can get up in the morning, do whatever you like. You can abuse people. You can assault people. You can rob people. And then in the afternoon, you can set up camp on the sidewalk and sell Philly cheesesteaks. It's unbelievable. You can do whatever you like. There is no laws and no consequences. It's pure Thunderdome. Once you leave your front door, you take your own life. You're responsible for your own life. I got a concealed carry license maybe a year ago. It took me 12 months to get that one license. I sleep with that gun 24/7. I carry that gun with me 24/7 everywhere I go because it's scary out there. It is absolutely scary out there. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go back to the phones and begin with Ken in Studio City. Ken, you're on KABC. Welcome.
Hi, John. As long as we're talking about Bonta and his cliches, let's talk about another useless cliche, rock bottom. There's no such thing as rock bottom. The liberals, there are two types of liberals. There are the privileged white liberals who live in their protected bubbles, protected from this violent anarchy, and they won't change. They'll keep voting for this crap. And then there are the minority liberals who are brainwashed. Ulysses Hernandez, Hugo Soto, whatever his last name is, they won't change. They're brainwashed, and no matter how bad the violence is in their neighborhoods, they won't change. They're more and more brainwashed. So, I understand when you say you don't understand what's going on, but it's very simple. It's deceptively simple. And one more thing, you say you've got friends that wouldn't put up with this, that would, if their child were attacked, they would beat the crap out of somebody. I think that your friends wouldn't, because your friends, like me, are making plans to get out of this state. Your friends are smart enough to get out. You got out from L.A. County. You and Randy are probably eventually going to get out of this state. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Dan in Pacific Palisades. Dan, you're on KABC.
Hi. I think that at some point everybody needs to decide whether they think things are going to get better or if they're going to get worse. If they think they're going to get worse, they should get out. I don't think there's anything wrong with these liberals who vote for these laws. I think what's wrong is us who tolerate it and we stay here. In a one-party state, all this craziness is going to happen. Your vote doesn't really count. So I'm getting out. I'm moving to New Hampshire in a month because I want to live in a state, Maine and New Hampshire have the lowest crime rates in the country. At some point, you have to decide what's wrong with us that we stay here. Maybe if enough people leave and the tax dollars leave with us, people will begin to notice, because the money is the only thing they care about, the only thing that people that care about. Look at New York City, where they're crying about the money it's costing them. They're not even crying about the fact that the city's being wrecked. They're crying about the fact they don't have the money to pay for the fact that the city's being wrecked. So I'd advise everybody who can't tolerate it just to get out. And maybe that's the only way to save California is to leave, frankly.
Why do you think the majority in California is willing to tolerate it? Why do you think that they vote for this and they seem to be happy with it?
Well, I think the last caller had a point, is that there are many people who live in neighborhoods that are relatively safe, and these are also the big donors. And, you have the unions that get political power donating to these legislators. You have radical union leaders. So I think that all the special interests are aligned in a way that nothing can change. You're probably aware of the fact that sex trafficking of a minor was a misdemeanor in California until recently. Part of that law where if you steal less than $950, you don't get arrested. The same law had sex trafficking of a minor as a misdemeanor, and a Republican legislator put in a bill to make it a felony again. And all 5 Democrats on the committee, the state committee, abstained. The Democrats voted the Republicans voted to make it a felony, and it failed. And it's only when Newsom decided he wanted to be president that he strung on the Democrats to reconsider it, and now they made it a felony again. Can you imagine living in a state where the people in the legislature think that trafficking of a minor is a misdemeanor? I think, and you would know more about this than me, I think George Gascon was one of the people who wrote that whole bill. And so how can you live in a state where the people who run the state think that trafficking of a minor is a misdemeanor? It's not just George Gascon. It runs up and down the state. And, I think, to save California, you have to leave it. I was at a meeting of Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. I was invited because my spouse was a Democrat. And everybody there was there was a guy there who said, we have a supermajority in the state, and the government said we could do anything we want. And I raised my hand. I didn't identify myself as Republican. I said, people, the 30% of here who don't agree, could leave. And he was like astonished by this idea that people would actually leave, that we didn't have to tolerate it. So, you know, at some point everybody here has to decide, why am I here? What's wrong with me? Not what's wrong with them. We're focusing on the wrong thing. We should focus on ourselves. It's like when you go to a psychologist and they say, well, what's really wrong with you? You're complaining about this person, that person. What's wrong with you that you're tolerating it, right?
All right.
Or if you right?
Thank you for the call, sir. I'm up against a hard break, but the point is well taken.
That man does not take a breath.
That's okay. He had a lot to say. He was making a lot of sense. All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. Don't you go anywhere. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
You may be frightened, and I know how you feel.